For decades, the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein has been a topic of whispers, rumors, and a whole lot of speculation. But now, with thousands of documents unsealed, we can finally start to connect the dots on their friendship, their pretty dramatic falling out, and the really disturbing allegations that link them together.
So to really get why these new files are such a big deal, we kind of have to start at the end of the story. How did they even see the light of day? For years, all these documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein's lawsuits were totally sealed off from the public. But after a ton of public pressure, the courts started ordering their release. And what they unearthed was this massive trove of information that has just reignited all these questions about some of the most powerful people on the planet.
Now, while this specific bill is a hypothetical example, what it represents is very real. This almost unheard of bipartisan push for answers. Getting this level of agreement in Washington is incredibly rare, and it just goes to show you how massive the public demand was to understand the full scope of Epstein's network. It was really that political pressure that was a key reason the courts finally ordered the release of documents that had been hidden for so long. But these documents, they're really just one chapter in a much bigger story. To truly grasp what they mean, we have to rewind the clock, all the way back to the wild social scene of 1980s Palm Beach. That's where the friendship between a famous real estate mogul and a pretty mysterious financier first kicked off. Okay, so picture this. It's the 1980s. You're in this super rich, sun-drenched world of Palm Beach. We're talking mega mansions, exclusive clubs, the whole shebang. And right in the middle of it all, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein weren't just guys who knew each other. No, they were key players in the same elite circle. They were neighbors, they were friends, and they were partners in a very particular, high-flying social life. And this timeline, man, it really shows you just how deep their connection was. This was not a casual friendship. For more than a decade, their lives were completely intertwined. From co-hosting parties at Mar-a-Lago to Trump flying on Epstein's private jet over and over again, this wasn't just business. It was a close, personal bond. And that makes their big falling out and the quote that came to define their friendship so much more significant. And then we have this quote. It's from a 2002 Time New York Magazine profile. Now, back then, maybe people just dismissed it as, Trump being Trump. But looking back on it with everything we know now, those words have taken on a really chilling new meaning. That line about women being on the younger side, that has become a huge focus of scrutiny. And it raises some serious questions about what Trump knew and when he knew it. So after more than a decade of this tight friendship, what happened? What caused the split? Well, this is where the story completely fractures into two competing versions of events, and it's a turning point that's absolutely crucial for understanding the years of silence and accusations that came after. The official story of how their friendship ended really centers around Trump's exclusive club, Mar-a-Lago, but the reasons given for that split are totally conflicting, and honestly, they just raise a lot more questions than the answer. So here you can see the two competing stories right next to each other. On one side, you have a pretty simple business dispute. Trump outbid Epstein for a mansion in 2004. End of story. But then you have this other version, a moral one, where Trump claims he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2007 because of a sexual assault allegation. But the timelines here are a total mess, and they don't quite add up. So which one is true? The answer is still really unclear, and it just creates this fog of uncertainty around how their friendship really ended. But here's the thing. Regardless of how the friendship actually ended, what came next was way, way more serious. As all these legal cases against Epstein started piling up, Trump's name began popping up in court documents and official reports, and it started to paint a much darker picture than just one of parties and property deals. Okay, now it's absolutely crucial that I say this loud and clear. What we're about to cover are serious allegations that come from legal documents and unverified tips that were inside these released files. No criminal wrongdoing has ever been established against Donald Trump in connection with Epstein's crimes. We are simply reporting what is in the documents. These released files, they paint a really disturbing picture through a whole series of allegations. They range from a sworn affidavit by a Jane Doe witness all the way to testimony from Maria Farmer, who was the very first person to ever report Epstein to the police. The files also have more recent, unverified tips to the FBI, which contains some truly sensational and shocking claims. It's a really complex mix of sworn testimony and totally uncorroborated reports. This quote, which is taken from one of those FBI reports, details a truly shocking and, again, unverified claim made by a limo driver. It involves an alleged victim who was later found dead under really suspicious circumstances. Now, it is critical to note that the Department of Justice itself has publicly called these specific claims untrue and sensationalist. This really highlights the raw and often contradictory nature of what's in these files, where you have these explosive claims existing right alongside official denials. And all of this history, the friendship, the messy split, the dark allegations, it all sets the stage for the modern political firestorm we're seeing today, which has been fueled by the release of thousands of documents, including emails written by Jeffrey Epstein himself. So, what was the political fallout from all these releases? I mean, this wasn't just some historical data dump. The stuff in these files had immediate and explosive consequences, especially what was found inside Epstein's own emails. To give you a sense of the scale here, just look at this number, over 1,500. That's how many times Donald Trump's name appears in Epstein's emails. Now, sure, a lot of the mentions are trivial, but some are deeply revealing, and they offer a real glimpse into Epstein's state of mind after their friendship had publicly gone sour. This email from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell it's maybe one of the most chilling things in the entire release. The dog that hasn't barked is Trump, he writes, before claiming a victim spent hours with him. The implication, at least according to many observers, seems pretty clear. Epstein believed he had damaging information on Trump, a kind of leverage that, up to that point, he had chosen not to use. And other emails are even more direct. To author Michael Wolff, Epstein claimed Trump knew about the girls. In another one, he called Trump a horrible human being to former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers. And then, maybe most ominously, he told some unidentified person, "I am the one able to take him down." This is Epstein, in his own words, suggesting he held the keys to Trump's potential ruin. And then there's this 2012 email, which just creates another huge contradiction. It discusses a potential visit for Epstein to Mar-a-Lago 5 years after Trump claims to have banned him from the property. This document directly challenges the official timeline of their split, and it raises some really serious questions about when and if their contact ever truly ended. So in the end, the release of all these files didn't really give us a simple conclusion. Instead, it exposed this tangled, messy web of friendship, rivalry, and really dark allegations. We're not left with a clear answer. What we have are thousands of pages of evidence and a question that continues to hang over one of America's most powerful figures. What is the full truth?